We just kind of had a really weird week where almost everything that we started the week with is where we're kind of ending the week at, too. Where it's not just, okay, so I talked a little about Louisiana and the fact that we're literally going through climate change in the weirdest way. We're going through climate change in a way that a 1,000-year event is now becoming almost expected, something that we go through all the time, not something strange and new. It's almost deadening us to when we have these events. So much so that, even Trump did a stupid thing this week and went to Louisiana when the governor said, please don't do that because you take away resources. But he still did it. And it's just kind of crazy that there's still this heavy need in the regular commercial media to equalize and act as if Trump is just the same as everybody else. We've never, in our lifetimes, period, even if you're 80 or 90 years old, seen a race quite like this. Well, Goldwater, maybe. That's talking about when I was born. That's how far back you have to go. The 60s to get this kind of a race that we've kind of been in, and it's just crazy that we're going through this. And at the beginning of the week, we had a huge kind of turnover in the Trump world. And we had all these stories that were supposedly coming out on the Clinton side that once you started looking into them, they were ridiculous. To the point where the GOP is so stuck for what to do that they're still using the email scandal. Now they're investigating the investigators. They're saying the FBI notes, we can show that this is, and the AG's office is like, yeah, talk to you later, guys. Sorry. You don't have anything. You still don't have anything. And it's kind of crazy that that's all they've got. But so at the beginning of the week, we had a major turnover in the Trump organization, shall we say. And one of the things that I kept saying is, it doesn't matter how much outreach he does, because he's still got a past.
First of all, he's defying the rules of mathematics as it relates to that 1% approval number in the African-American community, and it's not clear that he'll be able to build upon it with antics like what he pulled in Wisconsin. Talking to the white community about issues like, for instance, over-policing will be good for the black community in ways that are clearly divorced from reality in terms of our own experience here in New York City, where we've seen both a dramatic decline in stop and frisk, overly aggressive policing, and a dramatic decline in crime at the same point in time. I think it's not going to work in suburban America. It's certainly not going to work as it relates to black folks.
Yeah.
And the thing is, he's deliberately run away from invitations to the NAACP,
exactly,
to the Urban League, and to other groups, black journalists, where he could actually have had a meaningful conversation with us, but he's chosen to duck that.
And so I've said this all week. It's kind of hard to sit up here in where was he? He wasn't even in Milwaukee. He was in West Bend, 40 miles away from Milwaukee, and to have Rudy Giuliani, Mr. 9/11, Mr. Forgot 9/11, this in talking and trying to save Trump from being Trump, says that he was brave to go there. No. He wasn't brave. He has not been brave at all. He refuses to meet with anybody in the black community, yet sits here in every white community and screams that we are all broke and poor and stupid. That we don't remember the fact that you are a racist asshole in rentals in New York, in Queens, in Manhattan, in Brooklyn. Thank God you weren't as strong in Brooklyn, but you in Queens, okay? You and the things that you've done to show that you are a bigoted idiot are all over the place. And the thing is, he just started an ad buy too this week too. And if you look at the bottom of a few of those statistics that he's got, and you look at where they're coming from white supremacist sites. Or as they like to now call themselves, and can we knock it off with this crap? The alt-right? Bullshit. It's not alt-right. It's bigots who don't want to be called out for their bigotry. It's that simple.
Hillary Clinton has 86% of the African American vote because we know Trump. We have history with him from his discrimination, which was cited by the Department of Justice, by his calls and his attacks on the Central Park Five. He is running a racist campaign. And quite frankly, it's probably high time that we have a reasonable suspicion that Donald Trump is a racist himself. This, after all, is the man who questioned President Obama's citizenship. And not only has he attacked African Americans, he's attacked other groups as well, the Khan family, Latinos, Jews. So it's really incredible. If he were concerned about African Americans, he would have gone in Milwaukee, and he would have accepted the invitation of the NAACP to come and speak at their convention, as all presidential candidates traditionally do.
E.J. Dionne.
Okay, so that's Mark Thompson and Hakeem Jeffries and April, I can't remember her last name, from Urban Networks, all saying the exact same thing. And it's something I was thinking before I even heard them say it. And the best part was being able to grab this sound bites off of national TV shows that says the exact same thing. They've said it on CNN, they've said it on NBC, they've said it on MSNBC, they've even said it on Fox. This man refused to go to the NAACP, yet sits in these lily white neighborhoods doing these rallies, and that's his biggest thing. He thinks that because these people at these rallies are with him, he's got it. Ask Bernie about that, like I said earlier this week.
Bringing in Stephen Bannon, who is a part of the alt-right, who's moved Breitbart.com from being just far-right to being alt-right. How does that help grow the Donald Trump base?
Well, I think media all week have been putting far too much emphasis on a man I've never met. I don't have any idea who Steve Bannon is, and I don't read Breitbart. And I think that's really inside the Manhattan Beltway media elite to focus on Bannon.
Okay, this is the guy that's running his campaign. We're not focusing on him, but he is a footnote. He's a footnote as to how they are going to run the campaign. Now, truly, he may not have as much influence as we think, but I doubt that. Because why would he drop Breitbart? And I don't know how many of you have been to Breitbart. Probably most of you who are listening to this wouldn't go to Breitbart. Or if you do, it's kind of like, let me just see what they're talking about. You probably don't follow it. And if you do follow any of it, it probably gets your blood boiling. Because they are this overly alt-right. I mean, just some of the things that have been said are just kind of ridiculous.
This is a guy who has presided over some headlines like these. Bill Kristol, Republican spoiler, renegade Jew. Big trans hate machine. Targets pitching Kurt Schilling. Lesbian bridezillas. Bully shop owner over religious beliefs. Hoisted high and proud. The Confederate flag proclaims a glorious heritage.
Yeah. Think about that a minute. So these are the headlines you're seeing when you go to Breitbart. These are the headlines you see at Drudge and Breitbart. And then you bring in the person who is still, I don't care what they say, if he didn't leave it, he's probably still got his hands in it. You bring that in. And more people are saying the exact same thing that I said earlier this week, as this is the weekly wrap-up. He's not running for president anymore. He did 49 seconds of unloading crap in Louisiana. He's running to make sure he doesn't lose bigly. What that means? Bigly. He just wants to make sure that he gets enough of a head of steam on these people. And understand, a lot of the people that are going to his rallies have been shown not even to be registered or are going to register to vote. So tell me how these crowds who want to go see the idiot in chief live are going to equate to voters when you have no ground game. You've got one office in Florida. You got one office in Florida. That doesn't even make sense. I don't get it. Let's face it, he's running to create the next Fox. And if you think Fox was bad, this will be all new hate. This will be all new idiocy. This will be the complete lunacy that, thank you, Reagan, you brought this forth, and Mr. Clinton, you are the one who finished it off. You're the one who actually got us into this badly. And once we get back, we'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that they're trying to get away with saying. Please help support our station by going to amazon.tmmsradio.com. Bookmark that page and use it for shopping regularly. We get a portion of the proceeds. Or go to our front page at www.tmmsradio.com and click on the Amazon. Thanks a lot. Tune in weekdays for Feast of Fun at 6 a.m. Citizen Radio at 8 a.m. Best of the Left at 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. The Bob and Jez Show, presented by Bubble Genius at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. The Bradcast at 12 noon and 4 p.m. The Majority Report at 1 o'clock p.m. The Slate Political Gabfest at 2 p.m. Democracy Now! At 8 p.m. and 11 p.m. David Pakman at 9 p.m. Main Street is Talking at 10 p.m.
Bring him into your campaign and then pretend he's not there?
No, and if I could paraphrase New Hampshire debate Marco Rubio, Donald Trump knows exactly what he's doing, Joy. And if you want to understand, and everybody wants to understand exactly what he's doing, all one needs to do is understand 3 words. Follow the money. Donald Trump, I think, has recognized this election has gotten away from him, and he's going to try and cash out. And that's why once news came out a few months back that he was thinking about a media empire, an alternative to Fox News, this is exactly what he's trying to do. And I'm almost to the point, Joe, where I'm convinced that he wants to lose the election. He needs to lose the election in order to allow all of the Trump supporters and followers to have an outlet. It's going to be the 3rd presidential election in a row that the Republicans lose. They need somewhere to go. And who's waiting in the wings? Roger Ailes, Steve Bannon, Donald Trump. Trump TV is coming up next.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Computer says yes.
I just don't see what else. I mean, and Hugh Hewitt was on AM Joy this morning, which I happened to watch and was listening to him. I think he's being an idiot. He was one of the original conservative guys who was no Trump. I'm not going to, no way, Then all of a sudden he became all Trump. I don't know if somebody's paying him or what, but he became all Trump. And one of the things he did today in trying to gin up the changes that happened for Trump was he tried to marginalize Breitbart. Yeah, he tried to marginalize it. Now, I'm not sure, and he says he didn't, doesn't go to the site, blah, blah, you heard that. Okay, they're a 30 million unique viewership site. Now, I worked for a site where we were around 20 to 22 million uniques, which is a lot lower, and we were game oriented. Now, we made pretty good money. We were about $56 to $64 million, depending on, the year, and it was basically enough to keep us running and our staff of 40. That's all we had. We had a staff of 40 that was eventually bought by a company that had a staff of over 140, almost 200, and they ran 3 different sites. We ran one site, and we had a lot to do. just 40 of us. I mean, there was only 3 of us that actually ran all of IT, and I was the only one running the systems. The other 2 people were developers, so they didn't know anything about running the site, and I had backup out of New York. That's how much a backup I had. But we did about $56 million out of 22 million uniques. Breitbart is somewhere between 30 to 35 million and going up. That's not marginal. That's not small. That is not a little thing. And as it becomes more and more known, I've seen where they're somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 45 right now. Now, if that stays up, I don't know, but think about that. That means they're probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 75 to 80 million a year. So think about what you can do if you can get the internet part and you can get on TV. Fox News makes billions a year. I think they're like 1.8 to 2.4 billion a year. I have to look up again to see if they're that high still. But that's on advertising revenue and their online presence. So imagine Breitbart coming along and being that much more.
Oh, he absolutely has given up on being president. The appointment of Steve Bannon is a certainty of that. But I think there's another thing here as well. I think he wants to not be embarrassed on Election Day. I think he's going to have to spend a lot of time in red states that should be in his pocket. I mean, he was in Louisiana just this week. Now, no Republican should have to spend 1 minute in the state of Louisiana to carry that state. So he's having to shore up red states that most Republican candidates, Romney, McCain, they had in their pocket on day one. He's fighting in places like Utah, the reddest state in the union. And I think he's doing this partly just to make sure that he carries some states and does at least as well as Ross Perot did.
Think about that. To do as well as Ross Perot did. Now remember, when Clinton got elected, it was at 43%, and it's because it was a 3-way, and it really almost wasn't a 3-way because Ross Perot, Mr. Perot dropped out for a few months around this time, around August, and came back. So a little history there that even Clinton, his first round, he was less than 50% because it was a 3-way race. So think about that. And for those of you who are talking about the Gary Johnson and the Jill Stein, whatever. You know what? They're right now still sitting between 9 and 12%. They still aren't getting to the 15%. I don't foresee them being on the debate stage. And so many of Trump's people are like, just wait for the debates. He's got Mr. Fox prepping him. You're not going to change his spots. The man will not study up. He doesn't have a clue. He honestly, I don't believe, even understands. If he's read the Constitution, it probably went in this ear and out this one within the 5 seconds that it took him to read what little he did read. I just don't believe he's got the ability to sit down and learn enough to get through a debate. Because remember, when it got down to being just the 3 people, it was a different story. And now it's going to be him and one other person and moderators. I don't think he's got the chops for it. I just don't see how he's going to do it.
And he can talk to African Americans and say, I want to help you, in an incredibly patronizing and insulting way last night. You got no jobs, you're poor, your schools suck.
All African Americans are poor.
You're all poor. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. We all know that. So that's condescending. That's not going to work. But he can also, Steve Bannon can reassure the white nationalist side of the campaign that he's with you. He's with you. Don't worry about it. I think the media angle is definitely there, but I don't think Trump wants to lose. I don't think he expects to lose. I really don't.
Oh, no, his ego is too heavy for that. We can't, no. He doesn't want to lose, but I don't think he wants the job. I think just watching him run, I think about a week and a half ago, if you listen to his interviews when he was doing the ISIS, this is early last week when he was, Obama and Clinton created ISIS. They created ISIS. Every interview he did, and this was just about the time that you could tell Manafort and those guys were about to get fired, he was so, quote-unquote, low energy. Every interview he did, I think he realized that he had to take a new tact. Something had to change. And something in that week did change, because he went from low energy, these things that he was just getting ripped apart on, to all of a sudden this week he's back in it. But like I said, I don't think he's back in it for the right reasons. In Louisiana, which he was told not to go to, he was there for all of a few camera, photo ops, and then he was out. And when we get back, I want to talk the last little bit about what the GOP and why he is so pushing on the African American vote, which he doesn't have, and he will never get. I don't even know where that 1% is. And then we'll close out the show with just talking about how they're trying to block the vote still to this day. Tune in weekdays for Beast of Fun at 6 a.m., Citizen Radio at 8 a.m., Best of the Left at 10 a.m. and 5 p.m., The Bob and Chez Show, presented by Bubble Genius at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m., The Bradcast at 12 noon and 4 p.m., The Majority Report at 1 o'clock p.m., The Slate Political Gabfest at 2 p.m., Democracy Now! At 8 p.m. and 11 p.m., David Pakman at 9 p.m., Main Street is Talking at 10 p.m. Thank you for listening to TMMSradio.com. You can help support us by going to patreon.com/TMMSradio. You can either give a $1 or a monthly contribution. It all helps us stay on the air. Thanks, and thanks.
Have you ever seen this blatant an attack on African American voters, at least in the modern era in your state?
No, and the historians and the courts have said that this is some of the worst attacks on voting rights since Jim Crow. It all began after Shelby. Now remember, these are the same people that the governor and the legislator, one of the legislators said the day that Shelby was passed, now that the headache has been removed. So they signaled exactly what they would do. And what's interesting, Joy, is you have Trump and coming into this state. And he visited North Carolina a lot before he ran for president. He brought his birtherism and all that in North Carolina. And he comes to North Carolina and says for black people to trust him, and he doesn't say a thing against voting rights. He suggests that his party is the party that's going to help, and that black people are naive. Now, that's inherently racist. In other words, your party has been against voting rights since the 60s. You've been against the Civil Rights Act. You fought us on public education. You fought us on immigrant rights. You fought us on social safety nets. You fought us on living wages. You took us into the worst recession that we've seen since the Great Depression. You engaged in trickle-down economics that did not help the working poor. You even, under your watch, we had 9/11, but somehow black people are naive because we don't trust your leadership.
Yeah, and now to add to that, they are making a direct attempt to stop people from getting to the polls. It's pretty remarkable, but we're glad that you're there. Reverend William Barber, thank you so much, and we'll definitely have you back on as this continues.
And I want to thank Joy Reid from MSNBC's Morning, AM Joy, for that. Because, again, Reverend Barber just talking about part of what they were talking about in this was that North Carolina has been told basically that, and in specific to your law as being one of the worst, because we literally could go back and see how you researched it and what you did to get to this point. And yet they're still trying illegally now to put these things in place by telling the people that will be running the polls to never mind what the feds just said. No, don't worry about that. We'll do what we want to do. So one of the things that was said by a lot of people back in 2008, and I was thinking the same thing too, but I didn't think it would be quite as bad as it did become, is that by having the first black president, you will have this all of a sudden resurfacing of this just giant amount of hate and bigotry that will just resurface in this unbelievable manner. And
Computer says yes.
that's exactly what happened. Down to the people in Congress literally saying, we will give the black man nothing. Nothing. Yet he still did pretty good. I mean, we would be in a lot better shape if they had said yes to a few things and not just did the sequester and all this other BS. Like I said, so I wouldn't be on a 40-year-old train going to work every day. It's ridiculous. Absolutely crazy. And if you think it was bad having the first black president, think about what it's going to be like once we do have Hillary in place. The misogyny that is going to be these men, and I'm not just going to say white men, I'm going to say men, who all of a sudden do not have the full control that they thought they had before, and what they're going to do. I mean, and for those of you who aren't political nerds and really don't follow it, if you watched what happened in Australia, I mean, it wasn't quite as bad in England, but it was bad. It was pretty bad. And it's still, I'm not sure if this being the second prime minister that's a female will be quite as bad. But in Australia, it was pretty bad. So I hope and pray that our country doesn't get that low, but we have enough low information voters. We have enough low information people. We've elected enough alt-right people spreading the gospel of stupidity that we just might be in for another 4 to 8 years of this crap, which is unfortunate because we could really do a lot of fixes and do it quickly. We could put our schools back on track in 10 years. We could put our roads and our transportation system back on track within 5 to 7 years. But the problem is we've got too many people who still love their congressmen and their senators, even though they can't name one thing that senator or congressman has done. Ask your neighbor if you get a chance, if they even know the name of their congressman or congresswoman, as I have all female representation locally. All female. And hopefully we'll stay that way as Kamala Harris will take over the Senate part and we'll see in the House. But for the most part, yeah, even where I live locally, I have a female congressperson too. But ask them how much they know about that person, if they even know what they voted on. Because 10 to 1, they don't. And that's the problem, is it just when we don't have the right people. So hopefully this time we will. That's the weekend wrap up. I thank you for joining me, and we'll see you on Monday. And for all of you, have a great weekend and a great life.